Hello and welcome back to Through the Gauntlet, everybody. So, we have a very interesting matchup today where I'm not participating in the match. I'm just here as the curator of the series itself to bring all the questions forth and try to find some good insights for people who might be finding their first new deck or are interested in expanding their arsenal to different IPs within Union Arena in order to try to maximize their fun time and not get bored out of their minds playing the same thing over and over and over again. But before we jump into it, how about you guys tell me who you are? Giant Dad, who are you?
Well, hello. Yeah, I've been playing UA since about mid-December. I saw it randomly at a card shop being played. It looked really cool. I will say, however, they have very interesting learn how to play videos on YouTube. It looked really intriguing. I like the idea of it. It's pretty much my first actual in-person TCG.
Nice.
I played Runeterra and Hearthstone, but otherwise, I'm a relatively new player to this.
All right. And you have approximately how many winner cards in CG
I want to say I have like
for Bear
five or
Battles?
six five or six winners and another 4 to 6 runner-ups,
Yeah.
all pretty much with purple.
So needless to say, you know what the fuck you're doing when you're playing purple CG and green CG, let's be honest. You have enough experience, you're perfectly fine. And then the other person here playing the SAO, the launch week of all of this. Who are you and what do you want to promote?
Oh yeah. The name is Izarzin, and I'm from Big Beard Pirates TCG. We also do some Union Arena content and some
Mhm.
other card games. Um, so I'm very much a green player throughout, like since the beginning. I've played Toshiro. Once Green Code Geass came out, I also played that, and now I'm playing Sinon. Awesome Sinon. So I think in this segment, we're honestly gonna see like the differences between Kurapika and Sinon because they both have snipe, but they're different interactions for sure.
Oh yes, I have to say the Sinon deck looks completely different than Kurapika. Just your general play patterns, your play styles, the way that you have to think while attacking. I like all of that very much. So, one thing to go over inside of this is believe Purple CG is universally accepted as top 3 decks in NA at all times. Of course, Sukuna being one of the other top 3, and then everybody else seems to have their own hot take on what is the third best deck. But realistically, Purple CG is one of the top contenders. Izarzin, do you think that Sinon in particular has to be worried about this matchup, or do you think that there's a specific line they have to be looking for in order to squeeze out a bigger advantage and a bigger win?
Yeah, I think there is a lot to worry about with this matchup because you're not really promoting as much of a wide board in the early game, so they're able to get in that chip damage early. So you have to be very careful, and then instances where you might have to forcibly block because you're essentially going down to like 4 or 3 life, and you're barely getting out your big guys. But there are certain aspects that can help you win the matchup for sure.
Okay. Before we get to those aspects, Giant Dad, is there any specific cards you want to see in your opener, knowing that you're going up against a big dumb green deck, as I call them, such as this one? Is there any specific type of opener style that you think Purple CG can really capitalize on to just crush your opponent before they get to start playing their big dumb green things?
Um, at least how I play, I like to see those CCs with their stupid hat on early on, and then some combination of 2 to 3 between 0 and 2 costs, and then hope to God to get a double energy because the curse of purple Kogias is if you don't get double energy, you don't Guren.
Hmm.
Um, in particular against his deck too. Yeah, it's just good having that early game aggression out. There's not really anything else I hold otherwise. Yeah, against him though, it's getting that early game aggression out right away. But obviously can backfire sometimes too. I think the first game I kind of got punished on that a bit, but I also just didn't see certain cards.
Yeah, the first game will chalk up to a little bit of RNG. And as anybody who's watching the series knows, I always say, screw you if all you care about is RNG. This game takes a lot more skill than people think. If you're losing that often, it's your fault. Um, but
True.
Izarzin, is there any specific type of opening you think that you're looking for in order to take advantage of the matchup against a well-known control slash tempo pressure counterplay style deck like Purple CG?
Yeah, I think it's kind of the same philosophy, but in a more defensive style. I want to see. Well, I personally play the one cost Sinon, who's a 2500. So sometimes, if you're in a situation where you go second, you might want to play that out in the front line to be able to at least block some of the chip damage that's coming in.
Mhm.
And also, you want to see the early two energies, specifically the Siun, which is a staple in most green decks. It's like the two costs. Whenever it's active, it generates two energy, or just any other two energy generator is good.
Okay. So you just want to be defensive and get up to your big ramp as quickly as possible, whereas Purple CG wants to continue its usual strategy, just a bit more low to the ground to chip away with a little bits of damage. Now, in your opinion, which deck feels more consistent in the long term? Now, you don't have as much experience with Green SAO as CG players do with CG because, I mean, it's been out for a long time. But which of these two do you think will be able to perform more consistently across tournaments and why?
So personally, I do think that CG has the upper hand in terms of consistency. There's just a broader amount of raids you can play, and most of your triggers are just triggers that you need anyways because they're raid targets. Like the Lelouch, the Kalin, even like the C2s are pretty useful as well. So there's that consistency, and then also the fact that in terms of searching power, in terms of green, we're able to filter the top of the deck. But the one actual search that we have, which is the three cost Kirito, it searches for GGO, but the problem is it doesn't search for Kirito. So
Yeah.
you're not getting any of your seven costs, any of your zero costs, any of that.
Yeah. When I read that card, I thought it was very weird that they made a card like that. Like,
Yeah.
in my personal opinion, when it comes to looking at this game, I think remove the active trigger, but let it search any. And I think that would have been like a perfectly good trade off. Like,
Yeah.
that. And that brings me to the next portion of this conversation. When it comes to triggers in your decks, Purple CG takes the cake. It has 46 triggers, whereas your version of the deck, I believe you have 41 triggers.
Yeah.
What type of life triggers are you looking for in order to better stabilize against the opponent? Excluding, of course, specials, which everybody wants specials off of life.
Uh-huh. No, yeah, absolutely. I think the main thing early game is being able to see those color triggers. Getting able to play out a free body is always good, especially when you're trying to ramp up really fast.
Mhm.
It's also active triggers can be very 50-50. Obviously. Like if you don't have anything in the front line, they're basically just no triggers at all. But they're pretty useful.
All right. And how about for you, Giant Dad?
Can you restate the question? Sorry.
So when it comes to triggers off of life, what are you looking for other than specials in order to better
Oh, for
take
sure, for
over the
sure.
game?
Yeah. For me, with the way my deck's built, it's 46. I think that's the quote unquote code Geass purple standard.
Mhm.
46 triggers. Yet somehow C2 always ends up in life. But you're mostly getting draws. We talked during the game too when we are playing. I like to play really fast and loose with life. I'll take hits all day. Active triggers are huge. Those let you live a little bit longer. Then same with the. I know people kind of waffle back and forth between what's the right ratio. I don't often see people run 4-4-4 raids. I see it's four Gawains obviously, and then people seem to flip flop between the four and the three. Force block Guren or the raid from life Guren. I personally do the raid from life. I think the 3K comes in clutch a lot on a removal. But that and actives are huge. And of course the color trigger, my favorite's always playing C2, the two cost draw card on play, and if you played a double AP card, draw second. That's always an awesome color trigger to put right up front. Just get a free draw.
Hey. Yeah, so it does sound like CG is favored. Purple CG is in favor in this matchup in particular when it comes off of the life triggers. Now, that is one of the more swingy portions of the game. Are there any tech choices that you've seen in either build that feels like it's a silver bullet to make the matchup really polarizing? Or do you think it comes down to a pilot's skill of the deck and sequencing more than that?
In my deck, for example, my really only tech card is, which it came up quite a few times actually, was Checkmate. I love that card for the gamble. Keeping my opponent down to 2 life, where then they start thinking really hard about their blocks and whatnot, and then comboing that onto a Guren. Comes in a lot, honestly, more than you'd think, especially for a 1-of copy. Um, Sometimes still hit and miss with the other kind of outlier in my deck is the 4-drop 2 AP Lelouch reduce a 3 KBP. He usually comes in for board wipe or when comboing with Guren and whatnot, but overall, I feel like Code Geass at this point, it's a very set deck. I feel like a lot of decks, come down to here's the template, adjust your ratios. I feel like the only deck that doesn't follow that is Yellow Sisters, because no one can agree what's the magic ratio.
Yeah. So you would say that the silver bullets of the deck really make it more polarizing, not so much as the pilot itself or how they sequence their plays.
I guess to step back, definitely the piloting. Knowing when to commit, knowing when to do your combos. Purple, I personally love it because the options. There's just so many options you can do. Whether it's doing a nasty Gawain raid or doing a double Gawain and then they can't block, or changing your attack sequence. That's won me more than a couple rare battles and locals by just alternating my attack order
Mhm.
and doing the Gawain sneak attack.
All right. And how about you? For you, Izarzin, are there any silver bullets you think really help you catch up in this matchup, or is it more piloting and sequence?
I think personally, just from the matches we went through, Buggy was a pretty useful card in for like two situations basically. The first situation is sometimes I don't have enough energy to go into the 7 cost, so I kind of need that extra bump from the Buggy.
Hmm.
And the other situation is the fact that I'm usually not keeping like 4 things on board, especially against purple code ES, right? They're always going to be able to clear at least 1 body every turn.
Hmm.
So being able to push something up that I wouldn't be able to push up because, I need certain energy to raid, and then being able to buggy and still, get that raid off is very useful.
Okay. So Buggy is kind of the silver bullet more than anything else for the
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Now, last thing I want to know before we get into your final percentages is how has your perception of this matchup changed as you played through the 3 games? When we originally talked, you both agreed more or less it was a 70-30 win rate in favor of CG or a 60-40 to 65-35. How has it changed since then after playing the matchup?
I'll say just in terms of like hard numbers, probably like 65-45 for sure.
Okay.
Um, there are situations where, you know, it's more like if Purple Code ES is running smoothly, they're able to get a raid out basically every turn. They're always getting their 2 energy. It's very much in their favor. But there are ways that, that can, especially just like early game, as long as I'm able to play around like the chip damage, I'm still able to, stay in the game and then be able to potentially clear board with certain combos. But yeah, it's pretty much still in favor.
And what do you think is the thing that makes CG so much more in favor? Is it the consistency of the deck or its ability to pretty much nullify the fact that you have a 5K and not really care about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think minus BP is one of the most broken things in this game. Just like
I
it
love
just
my
makes
Like the
Kenpachi
play
for
that
a
just
reason.
happened, right? Like the play that just
yeah,
happened right here.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
I love my
It makes
Kenpachi.
like yeah, it just makes so many like defensive blocks like very unfavorable, like in every situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how about for you, Giant Dead? Has your perception changed at all?
It's about where I thought it'd be. The only, at least in a neutral drop, going against the deck. The only really card I worried about is going to be the Kirito raid. 5Ks are always a little bit more a problem, particularly with this deck.
Mhm.
You have to commit the two AP cost Power of Absolute Obedience to get rid of it. Otherwise, you're basically doing a 3-card combo. Some kind of combination of a -1K BP Lelouch, a Gawain raid, double of in either flavor, and then you can do the 3K Guren pop. Force block was pretty much out of the equation most of the times because he's gonna have other characters on the board as well. My favorite, honestly, is fighting other control decks because when they're also playing slow, they only have 1 or 2 big guys on the board. That's great for force block. Um, but when he has multiple big guys, or like look at his board right now, for example, when he just has a full board, even if they're all mid range, it makes those force blocks really hard. So realistically, there's not very many ways to get rid of Kirito or that 5K drop.
Okay, so if you were to wrap this all up, to name one specific tip for anybody piloting your deck trying to win in the other matchup, what would it be? Just one specific tip that you think really can hone in somebody's experience and try to squeeze out a win.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any true answer, but I know for me at least how a lot of times I play, and I think it's kind of funny because Izarzin kind of made a comment when we were playing too, but I oftentimes when I'm playing, I am reading their turn and kind of guessing what they're going to do, and a lot of times I'm kind of right because you see it coming.
Mhm.
But that's the best thing I can recommend is helping get better at the game. Is it's also partially why I love this game so much. Growing with it is learning every deck as they come out and then understanding what are the lines of play. So right when you've played your cards, what are they going to do? And that really kind of sets the tempo for whether you're doing a good play or a bad play.
And how about for you, Izarzin? What's that one thing you think would really push a new green code Geass player up to be able to take out the frightful purple CG deck?
Um, keep track of triggers. there's like yeah, just like there's moments where you get hit by like a special, and it's like yeah, you get hit by it. That's part of the game, but you just always make sure you keep track of that, and that's pretty much it. And like in terms of that aspect specifically, just like the fact that make sure that the thing that gets hit by the special is not a raid target you need. Sometimes you don't need a push up.
All right.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better to just play on the back instead of losing your stuff to random triggers. All right. Well, that was going to be part one of this. And when we come back, we're talking green versus green. Be right back. All righty. And now we are at part deuce of the Green SAO versus Code Geass. Now we're doing a green mirror. But before we jump into that portion of it, we were supposed to answer a question. There was a specific card, Giant Dad, that somebody wanted to know why you were not playing inside of it. It was the 1 AP, look at the top 3, keep 2 duders, and bottom deck the other one, right? Can you go
Order of the
over
Black Knight.
Order of the Black Knight?
Yeah,
Thank you. Can you go over
yeah.
why you did not have that inside of your list?
Sure. Yeah. So Order of the Black Knights, it's not bad. It's a search top 3, pull 2 Black Knight Affinity cards, add them to your hand, and then of course you don't need to discard or anything. The reason I don't play that card is the deck already runs super tight, in my opinion, on the cards it wants. I've seen people get kind of cute and people are trying to run Ogi, for example, for the energy. But I think the card's just slow for what it does when the deck already you're you're kind of committing 2 AP every turn to do your combos because they're never really free outside of your Gurren force blocks. Um, your 3K block your 3K pops. Obviously, you can get 3Ks on them, but a lot of times you're going to get a 4K and then play a Lelouch to Misa by 1. But that's a big reason why I don't play that, because there's not really any instant I don't know, use the word gratification, but it's slowing you down in a deck that already commits anywhere from 1 to 2 to even 3 AP a turn to do what it wants to do. I personally actually haven't even seen anyone run that card. It's not bad. It's just, again, I think the deck runs really tight. I don't
Okay.
know from your experience there, Izarin, from as a code player, you said your friend plays purple, but
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever actually seen anyone run that card.
I would say it's it's a consistency card basically. Um I assume that when people run that card, they kind of cut down on like the 2 AP Lelouches and stuff like that, and they just end up going with the main game plan of like Guren and Gawain. But it's basically just saying like if I have this card in my hand, I don't have the AP draw, right? There's that aspect. But it depends, right? You kind of have to test it out. I honestly haven't really tested it out in my personal like list, so
For sure. I'll also totally openly admit too, I cannot stand search cards because more often than not, I end up bottom decking two specials or something. So I know with search 3, it's not
yeah.
as bad as like search 5, but I have had the worst luck ever. And because there's not a way in the game to just put your cards back or pay a life or any mechanic to just set them back, I try to run them as minimally as possible.
Very,
I don't like the RNG aspect.
very fair. So it comes down to preference, but also you don't like RNG as much, which is
The
very
game's already
fair.
all RNG. The game's already
Oh,
all RNG. I
stop,
don't want
stop,
to. I don't
stop,
want to. I don't want to add more.
stop. That's fair.
Right.
So now going on to the green versus green. Both decks want to build big boards and control the field. So what separates a good pilot from a great one in this mirror in particular? Let's start with you, Azarzin.
All right. When you're going against like another green deck that's trying to ramp, the main thing is to try to stabilize a 2 energy as fast as possible on your energy line, so that you're able to continue making plays and even have have enough energy to just push up like the small bodies that you had in the back. I would say that's one of the main aspects you need to worry about.
Okay. And then how about for you, Giant Dad?
Kind of the same thought train, really. It's getting your energy up. I feel like of all the green decks, Lancelot is a very weird one because if you play too slow, the damage too starts hurting over time pretty badly. Versus Kurapika, if you play slow to a degree, they're going to either wait on their Kurapikas or they just play it out and go for the tempo. But yeah, realistically though, skiing your energy all set up and then getting those big wide turns and where you're doing 2 to 3 raids a turn.
Okay. So these decks both are go big or go home type of decks where you want to accelerate out and gain huge tempo swings. Now, as TCG players, you know that you want to get to an overarching strategy, but you also need to know your role in certain matchups. What role do you think your decks play in the matchup? Whom is the aggressor and whom is the control? Let's start with you this time, Giant Dad.
Yeah, I think in this matchup, I mean it can go both ways. But I think playing code, the longer you have your Lancelets on the board, the more you're doing damage to threats. In my mind, at least, the both Lancelot and Air Cavalry are safe for a time, because the 4K Sinon snipe, you're covered until they either play two and they give one of them the plus 1K.
Mhm.
I believe he had Photon Sword, and then you also have the Kirito. So you are safe and you aren't. But I feel like though, again, the longer you have Lance on the board, it's just overwhelming pressure at that point.
Okay. And then how about for you, Azarson? Would you agree, or do you think there's a different line of thinking that would put you in the aggressive role?
I agree. It can go both ways, but I will say in terms of early game, specifically for the way I've built it, I am able to get just more effective small body attacks if I have like the leeway to do that, if I have the hand for it. But at the same time, once it gets into that, I'll say like mid game where it's like turn 3 or 4, he does go into a more aggressive style if he has the 6 cost Lancelot, because it does have damage too. So you're kind of almost forced to block. So yeah, that's how I would see the matchup for sure.
Okay. So just overall trying not to overextend your bigger cards into a huge swingy turn is I think that puts you into the control within the matchup. Would you say that's pretty good?
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, I'm waiting for him to raid so that I can raid and snipe. Yeah.
It definitely feels that way in the two. I mean, Lancelot Air Cavalry, you can play that as a control card to, smack one of their 5Ks. But for sure, with his on play only snipes, it definitely feels he's the one waiting to seize better plays of, I commit my cards and he pounds them down because Lancelot and Air Cavalry can still just be chump blocked at the end of the day.
Okay. Now, As for skill floors, considering both of these decks, many people believe that the green decks have like the lowest of the skill floors. Personally, I think they have a pretty medium floor, being the barrier of entry to be able to pilot the deck effectively in order to win is slightly higher than many of the other decks in the game. But where would you rank the skill floor of each of your decks?
You want to go first on that one, Izarzin?
A skill floor. Um, hmm, I
Like
think
base level entry, you're showing up for locals and you want to perform well.
yeah, I would say this one has a bit of a higher skill floor than Green Code Geass, just
Mhm.
because in the aspect that, well, the standard build for Green Code Geass usually runs the Gloucester, right? So you're kind of in a position where you can just easily just be like, okay, once I get to 4 energy and I have like a Cornelia in the back, I'll just raid and then I'll search, and then I'll get to my 2 energies, and then once I get to 8, then I drop the air cavalry. Compared to like Sinon, where it's like, okay, I do need to worry about getting to my raids, but if they have nothing on board, like I need to know that okay, I need to aggress, even if I'm aggressing with a 2 energy generator that I might need. It might be the better play overall.
Okay. And how about for you, Giant Dad?
Um, Trying to think on that one again. Kind of, I feel like definitely if we had to pick skill floor, there's more. I don't know if skill floor is the right word I would use personally, but I think thinking. There's more thinking involved in his deck. I consider this deck. There's like two dudes who play this deck nonstop at my locals. Lancelot feels very just unga bunga.
Yep.
You play your Lancelots. There's a couple times where you want to purposely have Lancelot die to get your energy Suzaku back to then play your air cavalry. But for the most part, I don't really see people hold air cavalry that long. Like once you see a juicy 4K or 5K, you just slap it down and it's a removal card.
Here's the giant thing.
But
Deal
there
with
was
it.
yeah, pretty much. And oh yeah, it does 2 damage by the way.
Yeah.
But whereas his deck, he's doing lots of synergy. He did multiple times where he'd buff a character with Sinon or he'd play the Kirito to give it 1K. So there's definitely a lot more again thinking involved. I definitely think green decks there is actually pretty high skill ceiling to not brick because it's very easy to do that or overcommit. But
Mhm.
yeah, I would say look at the two though. There's definitely more thinking involved in his deck versus mine, which is pretty just start putting down Lancelot's Unga Bunga.
Yep. I think I would kind of agree with that. Based off of like watching what the two of you were doing, it was much easier for me to navigate the lines that the CG Lancelot deck was taking and go like, yeah, that seems logical. That's probably the right move. Whereas like where Izarzin is making plays, I sit there going, was that optimal? Not because I think you're playing poorly or anything, because I don't know if that was optimal compared to something else that you may have accidentally flashed in your hand that I saw or something else that you drew, things like that. So it just seems like the deck has a lot more choices to make that can have longer term impacts. With that being said, what do you think is the skill ceiling? And for anybody who doesn't understand how this metaphor works, the floor is this is the entry point. This is where you walk in. This is what you need to have in order to start playing well. The ceiling is how much skill you need with the deck to consider yourself a master with it and get the most mileage out of the performance of the deck as a whole. Where do you think the skill ceilings of your respective decks really settle in the sands?
Um, I can take that one first. We all know kind of allude to what you said earlier. When people ask about the top 3 decks, it's pretty much purple code, blue JJK, and then fill in crowd favorite, whether that's green Kurapika or purple bleach. I actually saw a couple new players play purple, and they won pretty easily. I think it's just a strong overall deck. But when it comes down to piloting it right, winning all situations, I think that skill ceiling is pretty high with Code Geass. Again,
But,
when to commit your Gurens, when to do the BP minuses.
oh,
There's a lot of
talking about
options.
green. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Jeez, my bad.
You're good. You're good.
Oh man, sorry. We've played a lot today. My
It's okay.
bad.
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah.
just Just cut that part out.
Sure.
Okay. Sorry. Skill ceiling with green code. Kind of as we said earlier, I feel like it's a relatively easy deck to play. You get to your energy, raid out your Lancelots. I mean, that might be oversimplifying it. I think the real tough ones in playing green is, again, when to sack your Lancelots or which Suzaku to raid off your air cavalries, because the getting your Suzaku back off of the Lancelot death is pretty huge up until it gets bottom decked, and then you cry a little bit. But overall though, yeah, I think I guess I haven't really followed tournaments to see how high green goes, but I feel like it's not. There's not that many lines of play, but again, I could be. This is my side deck, so I'm not a expert by any means on that.
Okay, so let's place it at like a medium ceiling. It's something that you can grow into, but after maybe 20, 50, 100 games, you're going to pretty much understand all the lines within the deck. Do you think
I
that's
would I
fair
would I,
with it?
I would agree with that. Yeah, I've never. I mean, it's not my main deck, but I definitely don't ever feel like, oh, that's a different way to approach something. It's kind of a beat stick.
Okay. Izarzin, how about for you in SAO Green?
Yeah. I'll just say like in contrast, uh Lancelot is very much more straightforward. Once you get to 8, you're doing damage twos. There's not as much like, okay, well, do I need to, snipe this guy or whatever? But in terms of the ceiling, I will say it depends on the deck building for sure. If you know exactly what, like, you can go, all right, let me just do four of this, four of this, four of this, and then like two of this, right? And you could just run it stock standard. But at the end of the day, right, it's all dependent on meta. And right now we're in like OPM yellow Saitamas kind of a thing. So, there's that aspect. So, and like you said, purple code Geass, very much a strong contender for top 3 always. And you have your blue Sukuna. So just knowing like your matchups is very important. And I think that aspect is, it's very extreme in Sinon, because you really have to know what body you have to clear. Like even just in the game versus like purple code Geass or even in green code Geass, like I only see one Suzaku. Maybe I should, even if there's a 4K body on board, I need to be able to clear that Suzaku just so he won't be able to get that free raid on top. Or like, purple code Geass, he only had I think he only had one Kylan on board, so I made sure to clear that one, even though there was like a 2500 body.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. So would you say medium high or high ceiling for this deck? Do you think people could really grow
Yeah.
into it the more they play it, or do you think after 50 matches they're kind of like at that ceiling?
I think it's a high ceiling for sure.
Mhm.
Just just in, like I said, the deck building is very important for sure too.
Okay, wonderful. Now, as we wrapped it up in the last one, I'm going to do the same thing here. I believe I did ask you guys about preference in the matchup, but I don't remember what the numbers were. What do you think the percentage win rate should be if piloted by, say, an expert of each of these two decks in the matchup after playing through them so much?
Um,
I don't think you asked on this one. I know you asked on purple and green, but on this one, I don't believe you
yeah,
did.
not the
Um,
specific percentages for sure.
Okay.
I oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I probably didn't. You're right.
Yeah.
Go
Oh,
on.
sorry. I definitely feel it can go. I'd say this one actually is pretty close to a 50-50 both ways. Kind of talking earlier, as you can see what's on my board right now in this video, actually, the Euphemia card, it's a dead card in this matchup. I hate it playing against green Kurapika as well. Um, because both decks specials aren't an actual play from hand. It buffs a character. It makes Euphemia a dead card. Um, but then to talk about earlier too, with his Sinon, he always has to have a way to make her stronger in order to kill a Lancelot or an air cavalry, whether that's Kirito, a photon sword, or a musketeer that he's going to discard.
Yeah.
But he definitely has to commit a little bit more to essentially basically kill my board. I believe I kind of narrowed out the end of the third match. The first one, I had the perfect energy curve, but I drew literally, I think, one Suzaku, skill issue on my end, of course. But I say it feels even. I'd be curious if we did a fourth match, but ain't nobody got time for that.
So you
Yeah,
you
I'd say
would
it's
say
pretty even.
even, so 50-50, or do you think one squeezes out a little bit more if both of them are experts of their deck?
At
Just
least
as
right
like
now, with
a,
it being new, I'd say 50-50, but I don't know about you, Izarzin.
I mean, just like as a green player, I feel like Lancelot has favorability. Just like if they both perfectly curve out, they both get what they need. I think Lancelot is in favor very much. So, but I know we would have to do a lot more testing.
Okay.
51-49.
But yeah, I would say it's like that close. Like not even 55-45. It's like a percentage higher. So
Okay, but CG still takes the cake in this meta. That'll be the end of this one. Thank you, everyone. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And once again, at the end of it, Izarzin, shout out where you come from and the other channel that they should check out.
oh yeah, absolutely. My boys from Big Beard Pirates TCG, they do a lot of One Piece content, but honestly, I'm the main Union Arena guy with my boy Avocado Show. And right now, we have a few videos on SAO. Like I put out like a blue SAO masterclass, about the first three turns, what kind of cards you would want to add into the deck and such. So yeah.
Yeah, be sure to check them out and subscribe to them as well. Giant Dad, you want to shout out anything, or you good?
Yeah, why not? No streaming for me at all. Just a humble player here. I'll say though, this game's growing. It definitely, at least where I am in the humble state of Minnesota, it's growing pretty good. I'd love to see it keep growing. Definitely for any players that are looking to get into the game, go to your locals, and if you're already a player at locals, just keep building it. We've grown our community, at least here, from like an average local of 4 to 5 players to now, heck, we had 12 people at SAO pre-release, and then we had
Hell yeah.
another 12 people playing just at a local for fun. So I mean, keep getting people in, get people to play. For people who have a lot of decks, bring your extra decks. I bring like 10 of them every time, and I let other people play, and that's how we're gonna keep building this game up.
All right, fantastic. Thank you all very much, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye.